and then we'll have a little bit of time left over to do a few things when we're done with that. All right, this is 3.3. We're going to talk about functions again. Okay, so increasing, decreasing, and constant. So something is increasing, you guys, when it goes like this. Okay, write that down for me. As you travel from the left to the right, the graph goes up. That means increasing. Okay, decreasing means as you travel from the left to the right, the graph goes down. And then constant just means a horizontal line, which has no slope. Okay, so increasing, decreasing, constant. I do think you'll see it on the midterm and or the final. And sometimes people get confused. Here's why they get confused. Write this down for me, okay? So number one, the biggest thing is these are X values only, never Y values. The second thing is you go from small to large. Well, if we're talking about X values, that's the left. So we go from left to right. And then the third thing you have to remember is that you always use parentheses. You never use brackets. Okay? Now I want you to look at that graph. Think of it as a map, like a road map. And every time you change roads, you write down the ordered pair. So this ordered pair right here, guys, is -3, 4. This ordered pair right here is 0, 1. This ordered pair is 3, 1. And this guy right here, he's kind of tough to read. We're going to say it's 6, 6. So write down those points. And then I want you to take your pencil and very lightly, I want you to just cross through the second point on each of those ordered pairs. Someone tell me why we just did that. It's always the X's, and those were the Y's, right? Now, you start on the left part of the graph, and you guys tell me what's happening on this road. Increasing, decreasing, or constant? Tell me. Decreasing, right? Where does the decreasing begin? -3. Where does the decreasing end? You guys tell me. 0. And how do I close them? Always with parentheses. Good. Now we're on the next road. You tell me, guys, look. Increasing, decreasing, or constant? What's happening? Constant. It's constant. Everybody shout out. Where does it begin? 0. And where does it end? 3. And how do I close them? Parentheses. Seems so easy, right? Let's do this one. You tell me what's happening, everybody. Increasing. And it begins at a, tell me, guys, 3, and it ends at a 6. Close with parentheses. Done. Easy. Okay? Okay. Local maximum point, local maximum value. I want you to listen before you start, okay, before we start this. Maybe put a little asterisk right here and write down that the homework does not match the notes. And then I want you to write down, do both point and value on homework. I'll explain what that means in a second, but it's important that you understand this. You're going to get confused when you do your homework, okay? Okay, you guys, a local maximum point. It's the same as a relative maximum. Look right here for 2 seconds. It's like you take a graph and you're just looking at a segment of the graph, and in that segment, it peaks up high, or else it peaks down low, and that would be a minimum. So it's just like a piece of it, okay? So if you looked right here, don't write this on your paper, but I'll write it on mine. So if I looked at this segment right here, okay, everyone just watch. This segment between there and there. So I'm only looking here. There's a local maximum point in the middle of that segment. And if it says point, then you're going to write it as a point, X, Y. Okay, write that down. So point is point. If it says value, it's going to be Y equals some number. You have to remember that. Okay, and this guy right here comes up a lot on like midterms and finals, and so you just have to remember point and value. What's the difference? Okay, so if you look at this graph, you've got a maximum point right there. What's that ordered pair? Well, it's -1, 0. But you have another maximum. Guys, if you look here, don't write this on your paper, but if I look in this segment right here, I also have a maximum value in that segment, and it's higher than the other maximum. Who cares? We're not comparing maximums. We're just identifying the fact that there is a maximum. So what's that one? That one is +2, +3. That's it. Those are your answers. Okay? Local maximum value, those are just the y values of those points we just found. Excuse me. Thank you. So that would be y equals 0 and also y equals 3, and that's it. And you have to have both of them. And you cannot write it like this, y equals 0, 3. That is not acceptable. Remember, when I write it down in your homework, that's how you should write it. On the notes, that's how you should write it on everything else. Okay, local minimum point. Everybody go x, y. And then value, y equals some number. So guys, we have a local minimum right there. It's a low point. What's that ordered pair? It is 0, -4. Do I have any other little low points on my graph? No. So that's it. And then the local minimum value is y equals -4. And that's it. Literally, those are the answers. Who says, I understand? I'm with you. Okay, so here's what happens on the homework. The wording doesn't match. It just says, find the local minimum. Find the local maximum. So then I have students come up and they're like, well, do they want the point or do they want the value? I don't even know what they want, to be honest with you. So you know what I would do if I were you? I would do both. I would write point, here it is, value, here it is. So on all those, just do both. Okay, so you're ready for your quiz. Okay, example 2. Here's a graph. Let's answer these questions. Where is there a local maximum? At what point? Okay, so it's this guy right here, which is 0, 4, and we're done. And I wrote it as a point because it said the word point. At what point does it have a local minimum? That would be 2, 0. That's it. Where is it increasing? You guys, where do you start looking? At what part? Like up, down, right, left? Where do you start looking? At the left. So I travel from left to right. Look right here. Here I am on the left. I'm traveling to the right. You guys tell me what's happening right here. Increasing. Where does the increasing begin? -infinity. Does the increasing end at a 4? Why did I say 4? That's a y, but y's aren't even a part of this. So this would be a what here? A 0 with a bracket. Is that right?
No.
Remember, I told you it's always parentheses. So those are the two mistakes. People will put a y and they'll put a bracket. It's a 0 and a parenthesis. Okay, so now what's happening right here, guys? Look, decreasing. Everybody in the room, tell me, where does the decreasing begin? At a 0, and where does it end? At a 2. And now we're here on the green part. Tell me what's happening. Increasing. Where does the increasing begin, everybody? At a 2. And where does it end? It goes forever. And that's it. Okay. I know what you're both going to say because I'm a mind reader. I'm a math teacher and I'm a mind reader. It's so weird. So you guys are both going to say the same thing, and you're going to say, should we put a U in the middle of those things? It's what you're going to say, huh? Huh? It's so weird. I like have this sixth sense. Do we all have six senses? Or do we have 5? We have 5? Yes, so I have 6 sense, and it's mind reading. So I knew you were going to say that, and we are going to say no. The only time that that we're going to put a U is when we're putting it in interval form, like from a number line. Usually it's just from a number line. So we're going to say no on that. Okay, name the y-intercept. Look at the graph. That is right here. That ordered pair is 0, 4. And then you have two y-intercepts. One is there and one is there. Remember that you have to write those as ordered pairs or you get nothing. And that is -1, 0 and 2, 0, and you're done. Okay, who says easy? Let me see. Okay, yay. Okay, even and odd. Now, these get kind of hard. They get kind of tough. The good news is, I don't think that I've seen this on a midterm or a final for a while. Just because it's not on the midterm or final, does that mean it won't be on my stuff? No. Everything in the notes is open game for my stuff. So anyway, here we go. Okay, everybody look forward, just kind of relax for just a second, okay? Look at this. Here's your y-axis. Here's wet paint. You fold the wet paint across the y-axis and it goes there. So it's symmetric across the y-axis, which means it's even, okay? I want you to write the word memorize right here, okay? You've got to get this memorized for sure by the quiz. You don't get notes on the quiz. You never get anything on tests or quizzes, just your calculator. By the way, if you don't have the correct calculator by Wednesday, then you either don't get a calculator or you have to give me a grace card. And here's the calculator that you need. It was in your disclosure, okay? So make sure you get that. Okay, if it's something's reflected across the origin, guys, look right here. Here's the y-axis. There's half the graph. Fold it across the y, looks like that. Then take that green, fold it across the x, comes down like that. It's reflected across the origin. If it's reflected across the origin, then it's odd. And if it's not y-axis and if not origin, then the answer is neither. So it's either even, odd, or neither. Y-axis even, origin odd, neither of those, neither. Okay, here's what you have to do. Look forward for a second, would you please? Okay, everybody just look. I don't like making you memorize things without you guys really understanding what the heck it means. It's pointless, right? So everybody just kind of put everything down. I want you to watch, okay? See this ordered pair right here? Let's say that this was 1, 1. If it's even, when I fold that over, what does that 1, 1 become over here? Shout out that ordered pair, everybody. -1, 1. Okay, so if x is 1, then that means f of 1 is 1. If x is 1, that means f of -1 is 1. So this means f of x is 1. This means f of -x is 1. X is 1, that's got to be a -x. So if something's even, that means f of x is equal to f of -x. The 1 over here, the y value over here, is the same as the y value on the other side. Who says I understand that? Okay, that's what this guy's saying. So if you put in a positive, or if you just look at the original right here, and then if you put a negative in there, they're going to be the same. You have to get it memorized. Okay, everybody look at this right here for 2 seconds. Quick explanation, because I just don't want to ask you to memorize something without giving you some explanation. Okay, so everybody just kind of kick back and watch. Let's say that this was the ordered pair 1, 1. Then I reflected it here when it goes that way, and that would become -1, +1. And then when I fold it down here, then it becomes, everybody tell me, -1, -1, right? This means f of x, f of 1 equals 1. Well, if I let x be 1, that means f of x equals 1. Look at this one. This means f of -1 equals -1. That means f of -x equals negative 1. Who says I understand? Now, they're not the same. These two things right here, sorry, I'm trying to change to a highlighter. It's not changing very quickly. I want this guy and this guy to be the same. They're not the same. How can I make it the same? Well, if I multiply that by a negative, then they're the same. So if these are odd, then this negative guy is equal to that negative guy. Okay? If you didn't understand the explanation, it's okay. I just like to offer an explanation as to what that means. So if something's odd, then that is true. Okay. So here we go. Little tough, just a heads up, this is just a little challenging. You guys, I'm telling you right now, for almost every problem you're going to do in this class, I will give you very simple steps. And if you have those steps memorized, you're 90% of the way there. It's the steps that you have to follow. Okay? Okay, step number 1, you're going to find f of negative x. Step number 2, you're going to find negative f of x. And step number 3, you are going to compare. Some of you have learned this before, and your teacher has taught you to put numbers in, like to do a 2 and a negative 2. You can't do that in 1050. You have to use x's. You have to use variables. Okay, so let's do the first thing. Everybody go f of negative x equals. I'm going to go over to the right-hand side, and wherever I see an x, I'm going to put in negative x. It has to look like that. The negative x has to be in parentheses. If you put this, that is wrong, because the negative is not squared in what I've written, and the negative is supposed to be squared. If that's all you write, then that's points off 2. You have to simplify it. So a negative squared is a positive x squared minus 1. Okay, now I'm actually going to stop. So the second step is to find negative f of x. You know what? Let's just keep going. So negative f of x is super easy. Someone asked that on the homework. So remember, you go negative, then in parentheses, put your f of x. You have to simplify it. You can't leave it like that. So distribute, and you get negative x squared plus 1. Now, nobody highlight. Just watch me highlight here for a second. I'm comparing this to this to this. Are any of them the same, guys? Yes or no? Yes. Which ones are the same? Well, I'm going to say f of negative x is equal to f of x. Then you remember, if the positive equals the negative, then it's even. I want you to take your pencil and make 3 dots like that. It's like makes an equilateral triangle. Does anybody know what symbol that represents in math? It means therefore. Therefore, it is even. So the only thing you have to highlight on your answer is even, but that's how you have to write it. See this statement right here? How you said those things are equal? That has to be there. If you omit that step, you'll lose a point. So just be careful. Okay, let's do the next one nice and slowly. Okay, everybody go g of negative x equals. All that means is go into that expression where you see an x, in parentheses, put negative x. Everybody in the room answer this question for me. Is that simplified right there? No. Write this up above. Write down simplify. Simplify means that you have no parentheses left anymore. So do you see how we have parentheses? So it's not simplified. So you have a negative to an odd is a negative, and then you have an x to the third plus 1. Now it's simplified. Now I'm on step 2. So step 2 is to find negative g of x. So you take a negative, in parentheses, you put your g of x, then you distribute, and you get negative x to the third minus 1. Now don't highlight yours, but watch this. I'm comparing the original to the first thing I found to the second thing I found. Are any of them the same, you guys? Yes or no? No. So we're going to say g of x is not equal to g of negative x, which is not equal to negative g of x. Therefore, if none of them are equal to each other, then what's the answer, everybody? Neither. Yeah. Neither. And that's it. Okay, let's do another one. Question C. First thing you have to do, I'll wait for just a sec. Some of you guys are still writing. If I go too fast, tell me, okay? Okay, so question C, find h of negative x. In parentheses, negative x to the third minus, in parentheses, negative x. That is not simplified. A negative to an odd is a negative, and you have an x to the third, and then a negative times a negative is a positive. Let's do the next one. Negative h of x. This guy's easy. You just go negative, inside put your h of x, distribute, and you get negative x to the third plus x. Look what I'm comparing. Don't highlight on your paper, but I'm comparing this to this to this. Are any of them the same? Yes. So I'm going to say, and I have to say this, h of negative x is equal to negative h of x. You guys, if the negative equals the negative, it's odd. That's what I remember. That's all I remember. If the negative is the negative, it's an odd. If the positive is the negative, it's even. And if it's neither, it's neither. So negative equals negative means odd. And I'm done. Who says I totally get this? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, yay. Okay, let's do question D. Nice and slowly. F of negative x. In parentheses. You know what? Do me a favor. Go up to the top and see right here where we wrote question 1. Put negative x in parentheses. I think that might be the biggest issue people have. They don't put parentheses around that negative x in that first step. Okay, so let's do it. So in parentheses, negative x to the fourth, plus in parentheses, negative x squared plus 3. A negative to an even is a positive x to the fourth. A negative to an even is a positive x to the second plus 3. Guys, I don't have to do step 2. I don't have to do step 2 because look, my original is equal to what I just found. So if you already find it, just skip step 2. So I'm going to say, try not to look at your notes. I'm going to say f of x is equal to f of negative x. Therefore, it's either even or it's odd. Which one is it? It's even. It's odd if it's the negative equals the negative, which is not the case. So it's even. That's it. Okay, question E is a little weird. Write that down. Write down weird. And I'll show you why it's weird in just a second. Okay, let's do f of negative x. In that absolute value, wherever you see an x, put in negative x. You could put it in parentheses. That doesn't do us any good. And it makes it look worse, so I'm not going to. And then I'm going to find negative f of x. So that means take a negative and then write down my f of x. Okay, everybody listen carefully, and you're going to answer some questions too. They all look different. Absolute values are weird because sometimes they look different and they're actually the same. Look at this and answer this. Which one of those 3 do I definitely 100% know is not the same as the other ones? Which one is out of the picture for sure? Which one, honey?
The third one.
How do you know that, Holly?
Because it has a negative in front of it, so it can't be positive.
Yeah, this guy is going to be positive. An absolute value is always positive. This guy's going to be positive. This guy is without a doubt going to be negative because of that negative sitting down there. So I know this negative f of x is not going to be equal to anything. Therefore, I know it's not going to be odd, because odd means the negative is the negative. So the answer is either even or the answer is neither. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a quick table of values. If I do x, f of x, f of negative x, oops, didn't mean to do that, and then negative f of x. Writing that third one down, negative f of x, was not necessary, but I'm just writing it down to make a point, okay? Everybody put in a 3. I made that up. You can do whatever you want. Don't do 0. 0 is not going to tell us anything. If x is a 0, then up here, guys, this f of x is the absolute. If x is a 3, then the absolute value of 3 is 3. Now let's do the next guy, f of negative x, that's here. If I put in a 3, that'd be the absolute value of negative 3, which is a what, everybody? That's a 3. This guy, the absolute value of 3 is a 3, but you've got that negative sitting out in front. So that's what Holly and I were trying to say. This guy right here is never going to be equal to anything. Let's do one more. Let's test one more. Let's try negative 5. Put it into f of negative x. So put it into this guy right here. That'd be the absolute value of negative 5. Everybody in the room, tell me what that is. That's 5. If I put a negative 5 here, then I'd have a negative 5, which is a 5. What's the absolute value of 5, guys? 5. I think that's enough for me. So I'm going to say f of x is equal to f of negative x. Don't look and make yourself remember. Therefore, the answer is it's even. Odd is negative equals negative. So this guy must be even. That's it. Okay? Okay, one more of these. I'm going to get myself psyched up. Oh yeah, we're almost done. Those are quick and easy. Okay. This is tougher. It's just more complicated. Nice and slowly, okay? Let's find f of negative x. The biggest mistake that people make on this step is parentheses. So everybody go parenthesis, negative x to the third, square root, 2 times negative x minus 1. Is that done and acceptable? Tell me that. No. So a negative to an odd is a negative, and you've got an x to the third. And then you've got the square root of 2 times negative x is negative 2x minus 1. Don't highlight your paper, but I'll highlight mine. Take a quick glance. Is that guy the same as that guy? No. So I must continue. So now I'm going to go negative f of x, like that. So that's going to be, will you pause for a second? Will you look here for a second? I want to say something to you. Look right here. Just let me talk to you for a second. If I had this, and someone said to multiply it by a negative, is this correct? Would that be right? I multiplied by a negative twice because I put a negative here and I changed those signs. So that doesn't make sense. That's multiplying by negative twice, which is really multiplying by a positive. So that would not be correct. Who says I understand that? Okay, one more question I'm going to ask you. If you have 2 times the square root of x plus 1, can you multiply that 2 into a square root and get 2x plus 2? Can you do that? How about if it were a negative sitting out there? Could you multiply the negative inside and get negative x minus 1? Tell me that. No, you couldn't. Either one of those. Okay, come back over here. So this is negative, and then your f of x. You guys, this right here is just a monomial. It's one term. Because that square root is just one term and the x to the third is multiplied. So this guy right here, that f of x, it's like a y. So all you do is just stick a negative in front of it. It's just a monomial. It's not like y plus 1. There's no pluses in there except for in the square root. And that's just one term. So literally, that's it. Just stick a negative in front of it. Don't change the sign of the 2x or 1. You're not allowed to pull it in. You just stick it outside. Are any of those three things the same? No. So I'm going to say f of x is not equal to f of negative x, which is not equal to negative f of x. You have to write that line. Therefore, the answer is, tell me what the answer is, everybody. Neither is correct. Good. Okay, who says I feel good about that? And I don't, honestly, you're going to see it on my staff. I don't think you'll ever see it on Weaver's. I have not seen it for a while, but I can't omit it. I still have to teach you how to do it. Okay, even, odd, or neither. Okay, so let's just define these again. So even is reflected across the y-axis. Odd is reflected across the origin. And if it's not y-axis or origin, then the answer is neither. Everybody look at question G. Take half the graph. Fold it across the y. That's where it goes. It's not even. Now let's fold it across the origin, which means fold it y and then fold it x. So the result would be there. Is it odd? No. The second half of the graph doesn't lie on the yellow. Therefore, the answer is, talk to me. Neither. There's no work to show for this problem, by the way. You guys, question H is reflected across the what? Can you tell me that? Origin. It's the origin. Reflect x and then y, or y and then x. Therefore, the answer is odd. Okay, who says I totally get that? I'm great. Okay, good. All right, average rate of change. What I want you to do is I want you to add some stars around it, because I do think that this will be on your midterm. What's another word for average rate of change, everybody? Slope. Here's the formula for slope. Okay, one thing I need you to know, that 1 and 3 are x values. So if you have an x value of 1, and then if you have an x value of 3, find the slope. Well, I can't find the slope yet. Why can't I find the slope right now, everybody? Look at the formula. What don't I know? The y's. How do I find the y's? Plug in the x. Yeah, plug it in. So everybody go into this equation right here. And everybody go f of 1 equals 3 times 1 squared. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So that means if x is 1, y is 3. You have to write that down just like that, if and when it's on the quiz. Let's do the next one. F of 3 is equal to 3 times 3 squared. 3 squared is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So if x is 3, then y is 27. Is that my answer? No. What do I do now? That slope formula, right? So everybody go m equals the second y value 27 minus the first y value 3 over the second x value, which is 3, minus the first x value, which is 1. So that's 24 over 2, which gives me 12, and I'm done. And I am almost 100% sure this will be on your midterm, which I think is good news because I think it's easy. Okay, let's do question B. 1 comma something, 5 comma something. I know from the previous question that if x is 1, then y is a 3. Now let's show some work. You have to show this work. If x is a 5, what's y? So that'd be 3 times 5 squared. 5 squared is 25. 25 times 3 is 75. Put that in that point. You guys, I expect to see those ordered pairs. Then plug it into the equation. 75 minus 3 over 5 minus 1. That's 72 over 4, which I think might be 18. Is it 18? Yeah. Thank you, honey. 18, and that's what you box or highlight. You guys, this is a perfect example. Look, this is why we box or highlight our answer, because there's so much work, and then that box or highlight goes, okay, they got an 18. Oh, they're right, so we're good. Okay, Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments or anything like that? Okay, so we're done. The bell rings in about 7 minutes.